With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Subnimaji, for this nice introduction of nice Nepal itself. So, good morning, all from this who are watching this or participating in this session from this side of the world, and good afternoon to the other ones, and good evening to the other ones, right? So, first of all, I would like to say that foreign policy of any country is the guide to its activities, its relationships and interactions to other countries. Having said that, Nepal also stands with the foreign policy 27 PS 2020 80, with its Panchashil principles as inbuilt into the core of this foreign policy, right? It works to prevent, protect, and promote its international relations. So I was actually listening to the earlier session where Professor Dr. Meena Vaidya was saying that it's actually based on three principles of C: continuity, challenge, and then change, right? So continuity she was referring to, irrespective of what the political party is leading the country at the current moment, there is something that to go on with this foreign policy thing. And when she was talking about the adjustments, I was thinking about the thing that Dr. Keshab would bring here in our conversation. And then when she was talking about the challenge part, that the opportunities that lie ahead, then I was also thinking about the other speaker who was talking about the another three, like say, principal major areas that was identified in the UN General Assembly about COVID, climate, and Afghanistan as the major issues. So with all these things summing up, I was actually so excited to listen to the three panelists who will be talking about Nepal's foreign policy and democracy in this session, right? So as again, like citing Professor Dr. Meena Vaidya, I was thinking about the changes that has happened in Nepal. She was also referring to a period when all of us were focused in constitution writing, all of us were focused in peace building and everything, where our foreign policy and our attention to the foreign policy was subdued. So in this session, we have the first speaker who is now still serving as the second secretary in the in the embassy of Nepal in the state of Kuwait. C is with C is the section officer of Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nepal, right? And I'm glad to introduce Ms. Janaki Ojha to all of you, and also request her to start her presentation talking a little bit focused on how this democracy and this foreign policy has actually shaped up, how the democratization of Nepal's foreign policy has taken place from the times like before she had joined this position. Because I also see from her bio that she has already into this position for 2 years, but she, because that's why she also knows what it means to actually what is that called, like implement the foreign policy, and what is it about to talk about the democratization of the foreign policy. So with this, I would like to hand over the floor to Ms. Janaki Ojha to share her thoughts and share her like insights to this group. And for this, I'm allocating like 10 minutes to her. And if there is like a scrunch of time, then I'll give her a thumbs up. So thumbs up normally says okay, but in this case, it's a shine. So over to you, Ms. Janaki Ojha.
Janaki. Good morning to everybody, and namaskar to all the distinguished speakers and all the intellectual watching right now. So as my introduction is already given and the topic is also clarified by Ms. Sajana, I will again thank NICE for giving us such a good platform for presenting our thoughts and gathering all insights from different corners of the world to make us insight clear about the foreign policy and basically for Nepal's foreign policy. So today my topic is democratization of Nepal's foreign policy, which I would like to start up with just the initials of what do you mean by policy, which is already known to us. A policy means a law, guideline, principle, or strategy used to solve a problem. And in the same way, when we are using domestic policy and foreign policy, and the foreign policy, what we deal with with the external world, okay, how we are going to deal with the other country, how the other country feel about us, and how we are going to handle a situation, and that also in the best way. And the ultimate goal is to just have a win-win situation, which will be in the favor of our own country. So every country are having their own goals. They have, set up just like they have to give importance on the national security, trade deals, climate changes, international problems, and other thing. And ultimately, what does it round up? It round up, taking all the countries coming under one umbrella and tackling a problem as a one, which we can mention that the global citizenship, it makes up a patch up to deal the problem as a one. And here a one country, what does they do? They benefit from the other countries, their neighboring, and a whole world tackling the problems together also, and even benefiting their own needs and own problems to be solved by the help of others. So in the same way, the Nepal's foreign policy is also very much clear about it. And we are always focusing on how to enhance the dignity of the nation and safeguarding our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, our independence, and also our economic well-being. And we are always focusing on the prosperity of Nepal. And that's why we have our basic principles. Okay, we do respect the mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. And we also advise non-interference in each other's internal affairs. We respect for mutual equality. We are non-aggression and a peaceful settlement regarding any disputes. And we are having a cooperation for the mutual benefits, abiding faith in Charter of the United Nations and the value of the world peace. And the same thing we can find out that how we are going to connect democracy, policy, foreign policy, and democratization. In the same way, I'm just going to enter on the concept of democracy. The concept of first, when we start off with the meaning, democracy means people and the creating and govern or rule. So what it is a kind of system, governance system with the supreme power vested in people. So how democracy comes up to patch up with the foreign policy? As we know that democracy is always having the key characteristic, just like the constitutional government, separation and balance of power among the legislative, executive, and judiciary. We accept adult franchise, rule of good governance, periodic elections, transparency, accountability, and independent judiciary, and a person in the parliament, and decision-making by majority, and respect for minority, inclusiveness, and we do enjoy the respect for promotion of human rights and all over fundamental rights and freedom to people. So when we call the freedom to people, then democracy and foreign policy, we can find out that while making out the foreign policy, we have the involvement of people directly, and how it comes by the means the collective opinions collected by the person, and even the policy implementation or making, it is having a close participant of the people directly or by the representative through our assembly. So here we can find out that the concept of foreign policy, it is always having a set of guideline of policy for, for the implementation in relation to each other places and think beyond the sovereign jurisdiction of the state. So whenever we are thinking about the foreign policy, it is always a set of well-planned and rationally designed policy plans and principle, and even the goals and objectives which is formulated and implemented by a state to deal with each other, other states in the international system for realizing its core national interest. And here, when we speak about democratization in Nepal's foreign policy or world foreign policy, we can find out that by the end of colonialism or imperialism, or we can say aftermath of the World War II, from the world seeing it has ushered in the drive for democratization, not only in the political system, but also in the foreign policy area. So the concept of democratization of foreign policy is concerned with devising and executing foreign policy discourses to further protect and promote the fundamental interest of the country and its people based on democratic norms, values, and principles. So the idea of democratization of foreign policy is understood as the process of deciding the foreign policy line by giving due place to the people's voice, choice, and right in the foreign policy making domain. So here, democratizing the foreign policy necessitates the sovereign control and participation of people in the whole process, ranging from foreign policy and formulation, discussion, feedback collection, final ratification by Parliament, and its publication for public consumption. So here we can easily find out that the concept of democratization of foreign policy it's just on public scrutiny and examination of foreign policy discourse by ending the practice of formulating foreign policy by limited rules or allied class to the person or the people of the country who are having the right and who should have to assess that what kind of foreign policy is makeup and their their notion and their views are also involved in it, and that's why it demand and the foreign policy it always demand meaningful participation all the stakeholders, both state and the non-state actors, in charting out foreign policies by taking into account national interest, universally accepted democratic ideals, that's constitutional government. So here the transparency, independent judiciary, separation and power, balance of power, accountability to people, general norms and principles of international laws, among others, it's carry out on all together. The people and the core interest remain both the source and the ultimate ends in what we call democratic foreign policy. So here, when we just reach out that of how the democracy dimension in Nepal's foreign policy had worked out. So here we can simply wrap up in three I's, and that is institution, individual, and the issues. So in the institution category, we can find out that wherever previously foreign policy used to be done from the palaces or from the elite or so, but now it has shifted to the parliament. Parliament's been the people's representative. And due to the foreign policy making procedures set out in present constitution similar to other lawmaking formalities. So in our constitution also from the article 110 to 114, this provision is granted, and increasing presence of Nepalese diplomatic missions and abroad in tandem with growing diplomatic relations with other states for protecting and promoting fundamental interests of Nepal and Nepalese is also a step ahead for the democratization. And role of line ministries, civil societies and private sector in the formulation and execution of Nepal's foreign policies discourse. It is also way ahead for the in this process. And Nepal as a party to different legal framework under international law, this also helps ahead further. And so after the institution, when we come after the individuals, so here in the category of individuals, we can find out the foreign policy making is no more a light job or a certain particular agency's job. But also it is the people and their representative. And so involvement of both state as well as non-state actors in formulation and execution of foreign policy, this makes the participant of the individuals and the presence clear out in the formation. And the practice of both the political appointment and the recruitment of diplomatic personnel, career diplomats in the recruitment of the ambassadors also, that's also a basic form here. And the people as both mean and end of foreign policy goals and objective. This also plays a very vital role. And but due recognition of contribution of the different parties in the social economic development efforts of Nepal and Nepalese people, thereby helping to realize many of the Nepal's foreign policies objectives. This is also the part of the individuals in the role of implementing of the Nepal's foreign policy. So when we take out India institutions, individuals, and now about the issues, how they contribute in Nepal's foreign policy. So it's in the category of issues, it is an continuity factors are also responsible. So suppose, for example, the continuity are the sovereignty, territorial integrity, national independence, and other national interest. So here, what are the changing factors then? The changing factors are economic prosperity. So basic when we speak about foreign policy, so our basic focus is always in how we can prosper along the development and along with our neighboring country, how we are going to make our own stand. And this is what the factor. And so here the economic diplomacy is also very much important, which is involved in our foreign policy. And so strengthening of democracy and good governance, and which is the very much integral part which should we abide. And environmentalism, and we can find out that not only economic prosperity or the good governance can give us a strong base in our going further as a good state, but also when we are going to think about the environmental conversation, conservation and impact of the climate changes are when also they are addressed. So this kind of things are also going to help out in a democratization of the foreign policy. So here, the adding step, which is there, the initiative to reap benefits from the globalization process as we are in the 21st century. So the thing which we can benefit from the globalization, that should be taken in our plus point books, so that we can benefit from the world and enhance ourselves. And so in this way, the respect for the international law also is an important fact and a changing factor. And disarmament, norms of the world peace, emphasis on the foreign policy, diversification and multilateralism, safeguarding of national interest, and rather than serving the regime Western interest, and focus on improving people's living standard and policy space to vital and day-to-day issues of people, such as foreign employment, pandemic diseases, and human development, and food and energy security, and use of track two diplomacy along with track one, which is the most important in the modern era, and diversity management, which give a open space for all the inclusiveness to protect them in mentioning their views and even their problems in heard. And so here, when we speak out about democratization of Nepal's foreign policy, have done any kind of procurement to save these all kind of topics? Yeah, we have already mentioned in our constitution. So the Nepalese constitutional provision on democratization of Nepalese foreign policy, we are having a very important place. And so clear definition of national interest is there in our constitution, Article 5. And which says a safeguarding of the freedom, sovereignty, territorial integrity, nationality, independence, and dignity of Nepal, rights of the Nepalese people, border security, economic well-being, and prosperity. Any conduct or act contrary to national interest is punishable. So these are the facts which it is very much clearly mentioned in our constitution. So here, about our directive principles of Nepal's foreign policy, this part is also included in our constitution, which is in Article 50. And what does it say? It says that the state shall direct its international relations toward enhancing the dignity of the nation in the world community by maintaining international relations on the basis of sovereign equality, while safeguarding the freedom, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence and national interest of Nepal. So here, there is a clear definition of the national interest. There even mention about the directive principles and more about the plus point, another point that is a state policy also, which is included in our Article 51 of in our Constitution. It says to conduct an independent foreign policy based on Charter of the United Nations, non-alignment, principle of punctuation, international relations, and norms of world peace, taking into consideration of the overall interest of the nation, while remaining active and safeguard the sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence, and national interest of Nepal. So these are things which we have already safely mentioned in our constitution. And so even to review treaties concluded in the past and make treaties agreement based on equality and mutual interest, these things are also having a special place in our constitution, so that we are going to be clear about our policies and how we are going to handle means in the over for the future with our neighbors or with the other countries, and when we are going to in the broader world stage. So how we are going to take our own stand and how we are going to present ourselves and take others in a positive way and in the way that we benefit ourselves the more. So in the same way, whenever the federal government jurisdiction is mentioned, in our constitution in Schedule 5, it is clearly mentioned that whenever anything related to the foreign or diplomatic affairs, it is going to be handled by the federal government jurisdiction, which is clearly mentioned in Schedule 5. Okay, it says that foreign and diplomatic affairs and international relations and United Nations related matters, international treaties or agreements, extradition, mutual legal assistance, and international borders, international boundary, a river. These things are to be handled by the federal government jurisdiction. And in the same thing, we can say that introduction of the bill to federal legislature and subsequent asset to bill by presidents. This is mentioned as I have already mentioned previously, that it is there in the Article 110 to 114. It's clearly mentioned that whenever any bills are going to be passed, the federal legislature is going to be a part of it, and subsequent assent to the bills approved by the president. So here, whenever any amendment is needed, uh, nobody.
Sorry, Janaki ji, like it's taking longer than anticipated. So if you can actually
So, so
make it short and finish it in next two
I'm
minutes,
just
then
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, just as to conclude, we can say that in our Article 74, 274, and Article 278 and 279, we have clearly mentioned that whenever ratification, assent, or approval and or acceptance of a treaty is needed, and here it is to be confirmed by two-thirds of the majority federal parliament. And so here we can find out that democratization of Nepal's foreign policy, it is already given a clear role and for development, prosperity, and happiness of Nepal and Nepalese. Our constitution had already given a special place in its arena. So here we can find out that the previous era to now, our constitution has provided a important place and important importance to the Nepalese foreign policy, which would help us to flourish in the world and make a special place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ojha. Like you rightly pointed out about how the institutions and the practices have been shifted in terms of democratizing Nepal's foreign policy from like a set of people to the institution elected by the people, parliament. It's actually rightly pointed out about how the foreign policies democratization had changed. You also talked about the principles of democracy, adult franchise, decision making by majority, freedom, and all our also talked about those say what like foreign policy being focused more on economic diplomacy, and that is the crux of what we have been thinking since 2015 after the constitution new constitution was promulgated, right? So thank you with this. I think there will be like several questions for you from the listeners audience in this panel. I don't know whether the live this is on live stream as well, so I don't know about what the people on who are watching it through the live thing in live recording, they have the questions. I don't know how it comes to the floor, but if there is anything, then I'll get back to you. So for now, I would like to introduce the team, introduce the whole participants of this session to another speaker who is Dr. Keshab Giri, who has done his doctorate from University of Sydney in digital sovereignty and small state. So he has focused his doctorate in international relations from Department of Governance and International Relations, and he is now the right person to talk about this digital uh, digital democracy. Sorry, just hold on a minute.
Thank you.
Digital sovereignty and a small state. Yeah. So I was just trying to link that this is about the change and the challenge we have heard in the earlier sessions. So over to you, Keshavji. And again, like I would request you to complete your presentation in 10 minutes so that we have more time for discussion. Over to you.
I'll definitely try. Okay, thank you so much for the kind introduction. Actually, I didn't do my PhD on digital sovereignty and small state. That's the topic that I'm going to present today, but this is my emerging area of research. It's my great pleasure to be presenting in this panel, and thank you, NICE, for organizing this wonderful conference. I'll be presenting on digital sovereignty and small state, as I said before, which is one of my emerging area of research. This has huge implications for state democracy everywhere, but especially for young democracy like Nepal. I will begin with highlighting the importance of digital sovereignty with some vignettes. Then I will proceed on to discuss Nepal's foreign policy as a small state, and I will summarize what is digital sovereignty. And finally, I will highlight the challenges and opportunities for Nepal in the digital age and round it off with few policy suggestions. So it's an interesting time to be in when it comes to sovereignty and statehood. With the dawn of digital age in 1990s, there were questions over the relevance of state sovereignty past the analog age. Since the cyberspace represents deterritorialized domain and operating outside the conventional purview of state, John Perry Barlow in 1996 proclaimed that the independence of cyberspace. Still, the digital age brings with it a great conundrum where it violates some key notions of sovereignty and yet reinforces them vigorously in various ways. For small states, this situation brings many complex challenges as well as some unique opportunities. I want to start off with some vignettes. A few cases in recent years highlight the perils of digital age with deep implications for small states. One of such cases includes supposedly North Korean hackers audaciously hacking Bangladeshi National Bank and almost getting away with nearly $1 billion back in 2016. This episode offers a prelude to unique digital vulnerabilities that any state might be exposed to beyond banking and financial sector. To make the matter worse, recent hackers use more sophisticated hacking tools and methods. For example, spy software like Pegasus has been used by various government agencies, democratic and authoritarian regimes both, to extract private information, data, to monitor thousands of politicians, journalists, and activists. Similarly, independent or state-sponsored hacker can anonymously procure and selectively leak politically sensitive emails. They can share other compromising documents online and fabricate origin and authorship of materials. Digitization already renders it exceedingly difficult to pinpoint the origin of cyber operations, let alone identify the perpetrators. We have so many examples like supposedly Russian interference in 2016 presidential election, Cambridge Analytica scandal, and so many others. So where do small states and fledgling democracies like Nepal stand in this increasingly complex, interconnected world? How can a small state not just weather these perils, but also thrive from digitization of society? What kinds of domestic and foreign policies might be necessary to be able to harness the innovation in digital technologies? I'll try to address some of these questions and raise other important questions. We all know that Nepal is a small state sandwiched between two major powers, China and India, and relative to its diminutive size compared to the giant neighbors, Nepal's foreign policies and security interests have been concentrated upon preserving its autonomy and distinct identity while striving for peace, security, and prosperity, as Janaki already eloquently mentioned. Nepal counts as a small state, definitely, when we compare to the giants like India and China in every dimensions, and there are various parameters and dimensions of that comparison. I won't go in detail there, but I'm happy to come back to that if you are interested. Yes, Nepal might be a small state, both in material and behavioral attributes and perception, but it is eliciting an intense interest recently in the rapidly shifting geopolitical context. In this context, the emerging power China is vying for its rightful place in global politics, making the reigning superpower, the United States of America, anxious and proactive in trying to limit its rise. The rivalry between China and USA is nowhere aptly reflected than Nepal's policy dilemma surrounding BRI and MCC. This is further complicated by the presence of regional power India, which has traditionally been and still is more influential in the politics of Nepal. However, there is one more inevitable extra layer of complexity that needs due attention in rapidly digitized world. That is the question of sovereignty in digitally transformed world. So the sovereignty always primarily means a state's independence vis-a-vis other states, that is external sovereignty, as well as its supreme and uncontested authority within the territory of a state, that's internal sovereignty. However, the digital realm does not follow the geographical borders. There cannot be supreme authority over the digital realm. Digital world is characterized by diffuse, flexible, forever shifting constellation of global digital networks. So three concepts become prominent in the conception of digital sovereignty. The first approach questions the utility of state sovereignty in the cyberspace. The second one proposes the rule of multi-stakeholder to effectively govern and benefit from the cyberspace. And the final approach captures the significance of user autonomy and individual self-determination in cyberspace. And all these approaches erode the traditional conception of sovereignty in many ways. Given this unique vulnerability faced by countries, it is important to consider what challenges hold for small countries like Nepal. As a small state and also a young democracy, the challenges multiply for Nepal. The democratic values of individual freedom, political expression, and other ethical concern constrain its ability to respond to political warfare waged through digital or cyberspace. Hostile states and also non-state actors inside and outside the country can use cyberspace to subvert democratic elections, encourage proliferation of violence, and challenge the sovereignty and values of democratic states with a destabilizing effect. To make the matter worse, digital sovereignty is pernicious and deceptive in a way it may either never be uncovered or it successfully exerts influence for years before the discovery. Technologically less advanced and resource-starved states lack the capability to properly investigate and identify interference in the domestic democratic process using cyberspace. And we have limitation regarding capital resources, intellectual resources, international legal structure, and financial resources as a small country. I'm happy to come back to this in detail. I have to quickly finish everything in 10 minutes. But it's not all doom and gloom. Let's be clear on that. Recently, tech giants are interested and they are engaged in armed race to invest and expand in areas which traditionally belong to a state or other specialized agencies and providers. For example, Facebook, Google, SpaceX, OneWave are engaged in competition to connect the disconnected or unconnected. These companies are providing critical infrastructure for its citizens in exchange for their personal data and becoming potential recipients of advertising. Nepal can exploit this competition in its favor. However, the government must take a careful stance and policy that best serves its interest and interest of its people. To do this, Nepal can adopt digital cyber policies and legislations that are flexible and pragmatic. First, development in legal structure that allows for investment and expansion of digital economy is vital. However, this has to be aligned with our national security interest in broad sense. It's not that we don't have some of these legal frameworks, but we need to change to keep up with the fluid and unraveling digital context. Most importantly, judicious implementation is really crucial. This is often hampered by lack of resources, that different resources like human, financial, infrastructure, and enough political willpower. For well-informed policies and legislations, deeper and sustained deliberation led by informed citizenry is vital. Low rates of digital literacy means that citizens are highly susceptible to pervasive disinformation, campaign, and fake news. Digital literacy is the key for creating such an informed citizenry. To cultivate this crop of digitally informed citizenry, development of indigenous digital technology is very important. Few countries have taken steps to be ready to replace foreign providers with local ones. I'll try to wrap up this within 2 minutes, okay? In India, the use of open source software by state has been mandatory since 2005, and other countries like Latin America, like Brazil, Venezuela, and others, they have already done that before that. While unavoidable structural constraints that Nepal faces could still be ameliorated by leveraging growing youth population in Nepal by providing them education-focused digital skills to fuel economy based on digital productivity and innovation. Carefully planned, visionary, nationwide educational programs like Plan Saibal in Uruguay and Tiger Leap in Estonia could be role models for us. I'm happy to discuss this in detail in Q&A. And similarly, Nepal can adopt pragmatic policies to draw many skilled Nepali diaspora working and residing in different parts of the world. Janaki already spoke, and she's based in Qatar. Maybe we might think about doing these kind of things. It's not that we don't have resources. We need to have this kind of deft policy and pragmatic policy to draw in all those resources in Nepal. Finally, cyber threat is not limited to Ministry of Defense, Ministry of External Affairs. This threat can be on critical infrastructure like energy grid, telecommunication, information technology, education, transport, and so on. So Nepal should also consider all government response to deal with such threats holistically, not dealing in piecemeal basis. The policy should envision coordination among different government ministries and departments, as well as multi-level response from local, provincial, and state level to regional and international levels. We can't do it alone as a small state. So we need to find our allies in an international community as well. So with that, I stop here and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Giri. You have shared lots of insights around this one. Even when you were talking, I was thinking about the open governance partnership that we were talking about. How this upcoming days and what could be those policies which can still practice the principles of open government policy, open data principles, but still minimize the risks of being exploited, minimize the risks of being hard hit on the infrastructures, not just on the defense and the foreign policies and other materials of the government. So we will come back more on this with the questions from our participants as well. So for now, I'd like to thank you again and pass it over to our next speaker, who is Ms. Sarita Bartaula, who is an independent researcher and is going to talk about foreign policy and democracy in this session. Over to you, Sarita ji. Again, the 10 minutes is yours, and towards the end, if there is time constraint, then I will give you a thumbs up, see for the reactions. Over to you, Ms. Bartola.
Thank you, Sanjana ji. A very insightful presentation, Janaki ji and Keshab ji. I like the statement how you end, Keshab ji, about like, we can't do it alone. Yeah, that is all about international relation and foreign policy we will be focusing on. I will share you my screen. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Can you see my screen? Perfect. So today I'll be talking about democracy and Nepal's relating to Nepal's foreign policy. I don't think I have to even explain what is democracy, because Janaki ji have gone a lot about democracy and discussion of foreign policy. But whenever I see the word foreign policy, what comes in my mind is a very simple statement: by the people, to the people, and for the people. So with this thing, Nepal democracy, we have been studying in our history. Many of us have faced this in our lifetime, as we have gone through lots of ups and downs, trials and trivials in Nepal's foreign policy. Either it starts with Prithviraj Saha unification, or Rana regime, 104 when taking over 104 years of Rana rule, and King Mahendra coup in 1990, taking over the democracy through the multi-party system and the constitutional monarchy. We have gone through a lot, and which democratic light we see in 1990 was again coup by King Gyanendra. And after abolishing a century-old monarchy, the People Revolution in 2006 gave us a very strong hope that we might be able to protect our democracy, and which was dropped by in 2015 by a new constitution. With this, there was a question. I can see what's the democratization for Nepal. I can see in the chat. So the global index state that Nepal democracy lies in rank of 92 out of 167 countries. So this rank is this rank of democratic to the authoritarian depends on how the people's voice are listened and addressed. So with the rank of 92, Nepal is in hybrid regime. So what is hybrid regime? There are actual regime, full democracy, flawed democracy, hybrid regime, and authoritarian regime. So democracy is like Ireland. There are countries will to flawsy and states like North. More countries are it is about which is already explained by Janaki ji. So I will just skip this slides and go to the other slide. So here is foreign policy and democratic peace theory. When we are talking about foreign policy and democracy, it is very important to understand democratic peace theory. So the democratic peace theory states that democratic countries are less likely to go to the war with one another than non-democratic countries. with this, there is a data that shows in a centuries, no democratic countries has gone to the war. So it is like very strong belief. It is not a proven, there might be chances, but very strong belief that if we fall in the democratic countries, we are less likely to go in the war. And along, it's not only about the war at this point, is if the more the democratic countries beside the war, there will be the sense of unification, common values, the union, and strong economic ties of and the interdependence. We can see there are lots of, like, we call it Western wall. Maybe Janaki ji knows better when she's traveling on the UN summit there, where how the democratic countries come together to support each other's ideas and values. And there are the bilateral unification, multilateral unification, national and international policies are very dependent upon the democratic countries coming together. And the more allies we build on, more sense of security, safety, and trust among the countries are also built. And as Keshab ji's last statement, we cannot move alone. In this world, today's world, no country is self-sufficient. So each country needs to identify their own competitive and comparative advantage, what they are strong at, what they can sell, what they should be buying, because no country is self-sufficient. We also have to focus on lowering the price of the goods and services our citizens will pay. So in this case, the pandemic is the biggest example where it shows how dependent we are with each other. And climate change nowadays, like the climate, the car that is drive, the air pollution in America may be like have to be stopped by forestation in Nepal or India. So this shows the dependence on climate change, terrorism, even pandemic, and even the price for the goods and services we use in everyday life in our home. Along with this, for as Keshab ji mentioned, Nepal is a small state country with a weak foreign policy. For the countries which is small, weak and passive foreign policy, it is very important for us to, and a weak economic status at the same time, to attract the more foreign investment. And we are the country with a labor surplus and high unemployment at the same time. So have a more good opportunity with our international partners, international community to employ our people. At the same time, getting more foreign investment to employ our people inside the country and more trade opportunities. In this context, it is very important for us to identify who can be our allies. So our partnership, our allies, our foreign policy has been very dependent on with India and China. That is also where we have lost the sense of trust and unity at some point. Our citizens are still confused with what is our foreign policy with India and China. So we have to extend our international relationship beyond India and China to increase our voice in the foreign international relations. So how can we do that? How can we do that is currently America is in the process of organizing Summit for Democracy, and Nepal has been very quiet about this. Maybe there is discussion going on, maybe there is plan within the government, but this is a summit where Nepal has an opportunity to raise the voice, to stand out strong and be a part of wider democratic countries that in around the globe. we have to find out we have to make an opportunity out of every summit, every discussion, every global platform, um, to make our country economically independent at the same time. So we also, along with our relationship with India, China, our foreign investment being dominated by China, we need to burden our economic interests and prioritize our economic interests. The most important point is relationship of our government with the foreign head of states. I live in the United States of America. What hurts most is when you see president of South Asian countries from India, Pakistan meeting the president of United States of America, higher officers of America to make sure their citizen voices are heard, their citizen in US, their problems are heard. Like when we have representative from Nepal visiting United States of America, we miss that. Our representatives are quite busy just meeting the NRN, and they definitely forget about their students and workforce that lives in these countries. Ambassador appointment. Ambassador appointment really shows how weak our political system is. So when we send ambassador to the our strong allies, even sometimes our ambassador does not even get a chance to make a relationship. They have to turn back to the country before they could build on any sort of relationship or any kind of commitment with the country they are representing. The other important is foreign service officers that are assigned for the different nations need extensive skill set that could match the skill set of those country itself, along with this is all about democracy, right? Listen to the people, by the people, for the people. And it is very important for our country to identify if the foreign representative in the country are actually there supporting their people and raising the voice for their people. And we definitely are signing lots of lots of agreement with UN, and even it's a small state, Nepal votes count in UN, and we are economically weak country. We are looking for opportunity to strengthen our economy, security, but at the same time, our voice counts. The other country needs our voice. So thinking of this point, we need to have a very strong voice in UN platform and other platform. Sanjana, before you say it's a time up, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bartaula. Thank you for little of the time, but like capturing all the details that we were looking for. So with this, we have had our presentation from all the three panels. So until now, I have got two questions, but a very broad one. So the first question is from Purak Adhikari ji, and he has asked this question to Ms. Ojha. To what extent is Nepal's foreign policy democratized? And for the way forward, there are lots of questions being answered by Ms. Bartaula's presentation. So I would just like to provide 2 minutes time to Janaki Ojhaji to talk about a little bit on to what extent possible, the foreign policy is already democratized, not about the process, but what has been done. Janaki-ji, over to you for 2 minutes. Please unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Here to be to the point, okay, we know that the global power is gradually shifting from the east toward the west, okay, and Nepal in the changed national, regional, and the global context also had to readjust, reorientate, and reformulate its foreign policy to serve the growing needs and aspirations of its people. So here, both in internal and external issues and challenges have been timely and properly addressed in the contemporary Nepalese foreign policy. So here we can we can even see that according to the question asked that how to what extent is Nepal's foreign policy democratized, we can see that whenever the foreign policies we are mentioning, it is in nowadays we can say that it is already mentioned in the constitution. Very special place is given in our Nepalese constitution, and even when we say that the non-alignment foreign policy formulated during the Cold War period and to the recent one, we can see by the changing time and situation, and we have even developed a new mechanism and new capabilities to cope with the changing time and situation and to maintain our own independent regional and global image and personality. So here we can remember a good saying from Henry Kissinger, which he had mentioned in 1995 in his diplomacy, that travelers, there are no roads and roads are made by walking. So we are having our internal and external issues which are to be summoned. And so here in our foreign policy, all the policies what we are having a look right now, they are all helped out by the people itself and the people's representative whom they have sent to the parliament, and by the decisions of all. And whenever we are taking the or amending any kind of thing, or we are trying to make out a new policies also. And when we are saying about the foreign policy, we always think about what is the notion of the people regarding this, and we are taking a majority voices, so that it can help out everybody's voice collected and everybody's notion collected, and the most of all, the development, the prosperity, and the happiness of Nepalese people is at the topmost. And this is what we can say out.
Thank you, Ms. Ojha. Thank you for that one. This meeting has been attacked by, what is this? Mexico. So I would like to request the host of this, host Nice Nepal and Sumnima ji to see this chat message. It says that this meeting has been hacked by, attacked by Mexico. I don't know the consequences about this one. Maybe Keshab ji knows mostly because he has talked about the digitization and this foreign policy. So being working in this data for governance program, and I understand the hacking. Yeah, I can see the person. If someone can actually take this Alexandra Gonjal out of this room, then that would be very helpful. Thank you, Sumnimaji. I think you have done it. So my little experience in data knowledge actually helped it, but I'm a governance person. I have worked in Nepal's peace process since 2004, supported in peace accord signing, 12-point agreement signing, comprehensive peace, this constitution writing and negotiation of lots of processes throughout the processes. Now I'm currently focused in governance work, and my recent work and my focus is on data governance, which is also a part of open data platforms, open data partnership, and open governance partnership. So that is my quick introduction. And with this, I would also like to pose a question to normally the questions have been answered about the biggest challenges in the Nepal's foreign policy, because from Keshavji's perspective, if we see that, then Nepal needs to go and think about the upcoming things, especially around the digital world. Being a small state, how the digitization has actually has been as a core of the foreign policy. But still would like to go to Keshabji and then Sarita ji to share your thoughts on this question. What are the biggest challenges of Nepal's foreign policy? If you can do it in 2 minutes each, then that would be very helpful, because other sessions are also waiting. So I don't want to take long on that one. Over to you, Dr. Giri, and then over to Ms. Bartaula, sorry.
Thank you. That's a very important question. And then just there was this highlight of this problem of digital world being boon and bane. We just got that highlight, right, in terms of spam. So I think we know what are the biggest challenges of Nepal's foreign policy. We have been doing this for over the 50 years. I don't want to repeat that again. It just is very simple. Just to, as a small state, we want to preserve our autonomy and sovereignty. We want to preserve our national identity. Obviously, there are questions regarding that, but also we want to have a peace, prosperity, and security. That's very simple. But I think I would like to turn the question on its head and to think about what are the benefits that our position affords us as a small state between two giants, so that we can benefit from this rapidly changing world, the rapidly digitized world. I think we need to think on that. But I think one hindrance on that is that there hasn't been any systematic institutional response to the challenges of this digital age. And I have spoken, we are currently in a research project I'm engaged in, and we send email to people in security sector, foreign ministry. And one example is that they were using private emails. I mean, that's a minefield for hackers and spies. It's a very sensitive issue. So it looks like we need to have a systematic institutional response, and then not just, we need to have this willpower to do that. We can do that. Estonia has done it in most difficult situation. And then we can also do that. And I want to stop here, respecting time. I could say more, but yes, Sarita-ji, perhaps she wants to say.
Thank you, Dr. Giri. Sarita-ji, quickly in 2 minutes. Yeah.
I agree with Keshab-ji that we all know what is the problem. For now, what I will highlight is we have improved a lot in a democratic process recently. As I said in my presentation, maybe this is a time for us to strengthen our partnership with other democratic allies and focus on our priorities. Our priorities make our voice strong. We are a small state, but at the same time, we need to move towards not making ourselves a weak state.
Thank you, Ms. Bartaula. That was very short and sweet. So I would like to thank all three panels, Ms. Janaki, Ojha, Dr. Keshab, Giri, and Ms. Sarita Bartaula, for your nice thoughts, presentation, and provocative presentations as well. So I still see like few questions or concerns in the chat box. And for all those participants who have participated in this session, listen to the panelists, right? I would like to thank you for your time and for your interest in this topic as well. And for the questions not answered over here, I would like to request Nice Nepal, the organizer of this event, to capture those questions and seek answers from the respective panelists, so that we can share it back to the participants, so that all the questions are answered, and people should not or may not feel that my question is not being answered. So thank you once again to all the panelists, and thank you, Nice Nepal, for this opportunity to be the chair on this panel. I also learned a lot. So thank you once again. Have a good day.